in Indian country. They have worked hand in hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
In every deliberation, we must consider that the impact of the seventh generation, great law of the Iroquois nation. When it comes to making important decisions, indigenous people have always thought 7 generations ahead as a way to ensure our survival as people. Getting the COVID vaccine protects you and your family and future generations. Help protect the herd by getting vaccinated today. This message is brought to you by Bimi'ji Communications and Minnesota Department of Health.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy and very cold, a low of 2 below, wind chills of 20 below. Then on Wednesday, sunny skies and a high of 4 above. The Great Wall has been serving up Sichuan and Peking-style favorites for over 40 years. The Great Wall is located near 45th and France Avenue on the Minneapolis-Edina City line. View their menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again, man.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm Wendy Pilot, also known as Hanaji Hihani. On Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, we discuss national and Twin Cities Native American news and events. And as we all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. This portion of the show is brought to you by Alliant Energy, powering beyond. On today's show, we will have Robert with 2 great interviews. One of the interviews will be with Minnesota State Representative Heather Keeler, and the other interview will be with Nancy Beaulieu from Bimi'ji 350. Later on, I'll have some sacred animal updates and news. But first, let's go to Ogimaa with the important news that you won't hear anywhere else. Welcome, Ogimaa. Hi,
Ogimaa. Hi, sorry, it took me a minute to get myself off of mute today. Bonjour, Anine, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Giniw Ikwe. I am a member of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota. My name means Strong Golden Eagle Woman. And I'm here with some news for you today. I've been talking about the last couple of weeks as often as I can, but for those of you who don't know, 1 year ago, Enbridge Energy, which is a Canadian multinational corporation who installed the Line 3 pipeline in northern Minnesota, punctured an artisan aquifer in Clearbrook, Minnesota, after it intentionally deviating from their plan and their permits without notifying the Minnesota DNR. They trenched their tar sands oil pipeline for line 3 to a depth of 18 feet instead of 18 feet instead of 8 to 10 inches, which was allowed by the DNR's low risk construction permit. Enbridge's actions have, again, punctured an artisan aquifer and left the aquifer in an actively gushing state for the last year, with Enbridge finding little success to repair the damage and the state agencies not monitoring this process. The process that happened did not honor the treaty reserved rights and federal trust responsibilities of the Anishinaabe people and led to a ruptured aquifer. And there are events this weekend on the 1-year anniversary on January 21st calling attention to this and asking for healing. There was a huge historic drought in Minnesota this summer, and an estimated 100,000 to 2.4 millions of gallons of water have poured from the aquifer each day, losing basically an unknown quantity of water since last January. And Enbridge stopped monitoring that flow on March 18th, according to the DNR's remediation order. Enbridge was also only fined $3.3 million. If news like this is upsetting to you, as it is to me, and I'm sure many of our other listeners and allies, you can get involved this Friday, January 21st. If you're in the northern part of Minnesota, there's going to be a commemorative gathering in Clearbrook from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Central Time at the Enbridge Clearbrook Terminal. That is hosted by Rise Coalition and Indigenous Environmental Network, so you can check out their sites for more details there. If you are in the Twin Cities, Friday the 21st at 11 a.m., there is also an event hosted by Honor the Earth and others, where they will be at the DNR and PCA building at 536 Lafayette Road in St. Paul, Minnesota, starting at 11 a.m. And they will be drawing attention to the lack of accountability that the DNR and the NPCA have had for Enbridge on this project. They ask that you dress warmly and, if you can, bring a whistle. So those are two of the big events happening in Minnesota with Line 3. And then with regards to Line 5, which is coming to your neck of the woods, those of us who are from Wisconsin, or those of you who are listening from Wisconsin, there's 2 online events coming up. One is this Thursday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. The South Shore of Lake Superior and Line 5 and the impacts. It's community members who want to learn more about how Enbridge's Line 5 may impact you and the lands and waters around Wisconsin. You can check that out under Shutdown Line 5, Protect the Water under their events. Again, that's the 20th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. It's an online event. There is a registration for the Zoom link on the Facebook event. And then next Thursday, January 27th, you can learn the basics and how to testify to stop Line 5 at the upcoming Wisconsin virtual DNR hearing. So if you'd like to testify in opposition to the fossil fuels project, they can train you on the basics of Enbridge's Line 5 tar sands pipeline and how to handle yourself in that situation. And again, that's 7 to 8:30 p.m. next Thursday, the 27th, by Shutdown Line 5, Protect the Water. It's really, really important for those of you who are in Wisconsin, if you have not yet and you are opposed to the Line 5 pipeline, that you take a moment to go onto the Wisconsin DNR website or send them a letter or do what you can. They are accepting public comments on Line 5 and holding a public hearing on February 2nd. It's going to run through from Superior, Wisconsin to Sarnia, Ontario, which runs through northern Wisconsin, and then also both the upper and lower peninsulas of Michigan, where Enbridge is currently operating their pipeline illegally after the Michigan governor has asked them to shut it down. So there's no shortage of betrayal from Enbridge Energy here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So on Treaty Rights Tuesday, when we have Nancy, I really like to touch base on those things. And then, just some kind of world news. Wendy, did you hear there was snow in the Sahara Desert?
I did not hear that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It's crazy. So according to a UK site, snow fell in the Sahara and ice has blanketed the dunes. It's a very rare phenomenon when the temperatures plummeted overnight. So the town of Ain Sefra in Algeria, for the 5th time in 42 years, the temperatures dropped below freezing, and they got some snow. So
That's
it's
crazy.
the pictures of it. If you get a chance to Google like snow in the Saharas, it'll blow your mind.
Wow, that's crazy. I feel like today all I did was scrape a bunch of slush from my walkways and sidewalks because I know the next couple of days is going to be so cold, and I know everything is just going to turn to ice. So
Exactly. Yeah, we got to do that preliminary scraping of all of that. And then the other exciting thing that happened too, the Writers Guild of America announced nominees for the 2022 Writers Guild Awards on the 13th, and Reservation Dogs made some of the top nominees for Best New Series and Best Episodic Comedy for the show's pilot episode of Res Dogs. So that's really exciting to hear. The Writers Guild, the WGA, is promoting and has chosen Reservation Dogs among other awards that they've been nominated for this year. So
very exciting.
It is so exciting, and so exciting to see our relatives taking and representing on the big screen. I mean, it's been long overdue that Native people be represented in mainstream media, and I'm always so happy to see that.
Yeah,
And
it's a great series if anybody gets a chance to watch it. Reservation Dogs. It's on the Peacock network. Is that right, Ogimaa?
I think so, and on FX.
Oh,
So if you have like regular TV, it's on the FX network too, but I think it's between seasons now. So you have to have Peacock or FX or one of those sites to be able to go back and watch them, but definitely worth the watch. You know, share your logins with people so that they haven't seen it yet. So that I would say watch parties, but COVID is still a very real thing. And Minnesota and Wisconsin are both battling high rates of COVID-19 still. So if you are listening and you care about your neighbors and the next 7 generations and the people around you, please wear a mask and get vaccinated so that we can get through this. I'm ready to be over with COVID, Wendy, aren't you?
Oh, I sure am. I can't wait till the day is over. I think we
Yes.
have a long way to go, and we definitely just have to learn to live with it. So everyone, please get vaccinated. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I've been your host so far, Wendy Pilot. We're going to hear from Robert Pilot coming up. He has 2 interviews coming up, one with Minnesota State Representative Heather Keeler, and the next one with Nancy Beaulieu. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, I'm Anna and I'm 8 years old and I'm getting my COVID vaccine. If you're between 5 and 11 years old, you can get vaccinated too. Getting the jab might seem a little scary, but there is lots of good reasons to do it. You'll be protected from COVID and you'll be less likely to spread it to people like family and friends. Have your parents find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and American Indian women in Minnesota are twice as likely to develop cervical cancer. Native Roots Radio is partnering with Minnesota's SAGE Breast and Cervical Cancer Program to talk about cervical cancer. Watch live Monday, January 24th at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
Guests will include public health experts within the American Indian community who will share important information about cervical cancer in our Native communities. Tune in Monday at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
What's up? This is Toolman.
And this is Bear Witness.
And we are the Hallucination.
And you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Hallucination.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahare, which means Distant Thunder in Ho-Chunk. I'm here with on the phone with State Representative Heather Keeler. And Heather, I almost said Mary Kunish. I don't know what the heck half the time I'm doing, but we're all really busy, and I know you're really busy, and I really appreciate you stopping by and checking in and giving us an update on what's happening. So again, welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
I'm always happy to be here. I think the last time I was here, you said I was a senator, and we know that's not that's not true. So. But it definitely doesn't bother me to be compared to the work Mary Kunish is doing. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, I'm catching you right now. You're on your way here to the capital city of St. Paul, which I live in. And you are going to be working tirelessly. And what I want to say to all our people that are out there listening to us, and especially our new affiliates, is I have random legislators come up to me and tell me how proud and how hard you work. And that's awesome. And I never really say, hey, well, how's Heather doing? They come up to me randomly and tell me these things when I'm out and about in the community. And so, we're just proud of you. And you bring that work ethic that I know a lot of our lawmakers don't have. So you're heading into St. Paul to do what?
Yeah, well, we're starting session here at the end of the month with the surplus that we have and our robust bonding goals. It is going to be a speedy session. And so, I've been working in the interim quite a bit to develop, some of the things I want to address and have conversations about and really push policy. And so hopefully we're ready to go. But I want to highlight a couple of those things that I really have taken from the work that I did in Indian education and in my own community. So I don't know, Robert, if you remember me talking about I passed Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Moorhead.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the first time that I realized holy buckets, I can make change. I brought people from the community in with me. We really did this community work and we created change in our space. And I think that's kind of what got me fired up to sit at these bigger tables. And so actually I have legislation that we're going to put forward to make Indigenous Peoples Day a traditionally recognized holiday in the state of Minnesota, because as of right now, our governor continues to do proclamations, which are great when we have governors who understand and respect the relationship with our sovereign nations. But I think putting this into policy and really highlighting it as a holiday in our state will start the ball moving in these conversations that I think are so important that we need to have. And the cool part, and Robert, I think you're going to like this because of education, I'm adding an extra component to it that's different than some of the states that have already established Indigenous Peoples Day, but I'm adding an education component so that our schools have the resources and have the guide to talk about Indigenous Peoples Day. Similar to the requirement that they have for some other holidays. If they're in school, they have to talk about it, for a minimum of an hour, have professional development around it. And so trying to take into consideration that these conversations really need to start at a K-12 level.
How much of a pushback, and I'm sure you don't have a crystal ball, but how much of a pushback would you get from the other side of the table, if any?
Here's where it's at. I really work to find slivers of commonality with people, and I work on it through building relationships. And so, some of the conversations that I've had with colleagues across the aisle, it's really just about coming to an understanding of why this is so important for all of our students in Minnesota. It's just good for all of us to know and understand the history and the land that we're standing on. And I've had some pretty good responses. Obviously there's going to be pushback. There were a lot of bills that we couldn't even move if it had the word equity in it. And so we know that that's going to be a struggle. But again, I promise myself, I promise the people that I serve, And I promise the next generation that even if it's scary, I'm still going to stand up and have a voice for it. And I think this is one of those areas that I'm going to have to do that in.
Yeah, and it's different times too. And I think maybe you would have had a more difficult time having these conversations 10 years ago, but I think it's really one of those things that are becoming a normal thing for everyone to think about Indigenous Days as opposed to Columbus Day. It's a different time.
Yeah. So that's kind of a piece of what I'm working on. I was just having a conversation with my son this morning that, like, how cool is that, that's kind of one of my main things that I want to work on, because he's really proud of that piece and really excited about that. But I'm also working on eliminating the ACT, SAT as a requirement or used as a tool to judge or determine admission to our state universities. As many of us know, the ACT, SAT is a barrier, standardized testing in general, but especially a test that you take maybe on a Saturday afternoon. And we know, and we talk about different learning and testing styles, but I just don't believe that that's a great way to determine if a student will be successful in higher education or not.
Yeah, I wasn't, when I was in school, I wasn't a good tester. And I know there's some people that aren't. And I know from being an old teacher is that great students would come in and get a 17 and then take it again just on a whim and get a 24. And there's no rhyme or reason other than maybe, not mentally prepared, emotionally prepared, all these things that aren't taken account in that test.
Yeah, I mean, the part about it too is I used to work in Indian education, and I worked with grades 7 through 12. And that junior year, our teenagers are going through a lot in their life in general. And to me, I really look at it on a greater scale. Not only is it a barrier to get into higher ed, but it is a major stress factor for not only our kids, but the adults in our lives, the counseling staff in schools. Like, it just pulls everybody really thin, and really emotionally, it's extremely wearing on kids. It's one of the first indicators that a kid knows if they're going to be successful in this world professionally or not. And that's really damaging to kids when, you're right, some of them just don't test well and they're brilliant students. So we're going to address that, especially right now in the pandemic. A lot of universities, when I was working in higher ed, we were test optional. We weren't even looking at ACT, SAT scores. And I would really like to look at maybe a holistic entrance path where we're having kids learn how to write reference letters, or ask people to write reference letters for them, rather than just a testing score. I mean, I think kids do different in higher ed when we invest in who they are rather than like how they did on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, I know as a former, I taught music too in the high school level, one class of drumline, and I know that's an important element. And I think as Native people, language and the things that we do are an important element to put on that college application. And people want to know when you're applying for schools how diverse you are as opposed to how high you scored on an ACT.
Yeah, so that's a thing. And then I guess the other things that I'll highlight is, last year I dropped a bill to reestablish the Office of Economic Status of Women. It was something that was shut down, but it's really important that we have something in our state that's looking at women in the economic system, because we know that we make far less than the dollar that men make. And especially, as Indigenous or BIPOC women as well. And even the next layer to that is our LGBTQ BIPOC women, and so we see it, I've seen it, and we really need to push to get, reinvestment in that office up and running, because, right now we have a massive amount of women just in our legislature, so it goes to show that, women are in this workforce in a really powerful and impactful way. And we need to address the disparities that are in that arena as well.
Say, you have something coming up here too, a fundraiser of sorts. It's at 5:30 coming up. I can't remember what day it is, but I'll be on the radio, of course. But there's ways to donate to to your running for office along with the other three natives that are running.
Yep.
Can you give us a little shout out on that?
Sure. So we've actually created a Native American Legislative Caucus. We're small, but we're mighty. It's me, Jamie Becker-Finn in the House with me, and then Senator Kunish. And it's just a way for us to really hone in and focus on those Indigenous policies that we're looking at implementing across the state. And so we had a fundraiser. It'll be Tuesday, which I think this will probably air on Tuesday. But there's always ways for us to get involved. Like you can go to any of our pages, social media. All of my stuff is Heather House with the number 4, and you'll be able to find any of our donation links. But it's really just investing in each of us as policymakers, as decision makers and leaders sitting at the table, that with us at the table, we really have our eyes wide open to be able to make sure that not only are we implementing policy that positively impacts Indigenous communities, but that we're also making sure that we're playing defense, that some of these behind the scenes maneuvers don't have negative unintended consequences in our communities as well.
Wow. And well said. And thank you so much. I know you're so busy, and I really, really appreciate you stopping in here for this quick interview. Anything else before we go?
Nope. I just want to say that we're in the process of finding new candidates to run. Never, ever, ever is it a good time. Like, I feel like everybody waits for this great time to decide to run, but we need leaders to step up.
We'll be right back after this short break. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
We are the Howling Nation.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Beaulieu relatives, my name is Deanna Sandycloud. I'm from the Red Lake Nation, and I live in Minneapolis today. As the weather gets colder, you're probably going to spend more time indoors, but it's important to stay safe and healthy. The COVID-19 pandemic is still not over, and now the flu season is upon us. So protect you and your loved ones by getting vaccinated against both the flu and COVID-19. COVID booster shots have now been approved for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. And you're eligible if you're over 65 and if you're over 18 and have underlying health conditions or work in a high-risk setting. What's cool is your booster shot does not need to be of the same brand as your original series of shots. And you can receive a booster shot of any brand that's available to you. Children over the age of 5 are now eligible for a vaccine as well. So let's protect our relatives in Indian country this winter and get vaccinated. Be a vaccinative like me. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. Miigwech Bizendawian.
January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and American Indian women in Minnesota are twice as likely to develop cervical cancer. Native Roots Radio is partnering with Minnesota's SAGE Breast and Cervical Cancer Program to talk about cervical cancer. Watch live Monday, January 24th at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page. Guests will include public health experts within the American Indian community who will share important information about cervical cancer in our Native communities. Tune in Monday at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Ryan here with locally owned Snap Construction. Hey, too much snapping. I have an important message. Roofing, siding, insulation, and window material rates have come down considerably. Production is up. Best of all, there's still time to lock in one of the many great city, state, and federal home fix-up loans with rates as low as 0%. Some cities are even offering no repayment until you sell or refi. We don't expect these programs to last much longer. Snap to it and set up your no-obligation inspection quote for your roofing, siding, windows, or insulation job today. Your Snap Construction Remodel expert can lay out all the options for your roofing, siding, window, insulation project, along with all rebates, incentives, and federal, state, and city financing programs that you qualify for. Call Snap Construction today, home of the lifetime craftsmanship warranty. For over the last decade, we are arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, insulation contractor in the Twin Cities. Don't take our word for it. Google us. Snapconstruction.com, 612-333-SNAP.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Tonight, cloudy and very cold, a low of 2 below, wind chills of 20 below. Then on Wednesday, sunny skies and a high of 4 above. Next Chapter Booksellers has some of the hottest new book titles to get you through these cold winter nights. Next Chapter Books is located at Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Court cases going on, and it's just let's check in with Nancy.
Nancy Beaulieu from the Leech Lake Reservation. I'm the Northern Organizer for Minnesota 350, and it's always a pleasure to be here and give an update of here in Northern Minnesota, treaty rights to protect, those rights to clean water and a clean future for those not born yet. So I would recommend that the government drop those charges and give the people rights and not corporations. And, looking forward, got some more disheartening news. I attended the Leech Lake quarterly meeting just this last Friday via Zoom. And Baron Jackson, our chairman, reports that Governor Walz failed to consult with the tribes in regards to the Hubbard Frontier Project, and it's a OSB company. So the glue that they use is very toxic, and the air pollution affects all of the northern tribes in Minnesota, not just our tribes, but all living things. And so Leech Lake has opposed that project, and they are going to strongly oppose it. And I look forward to supporting my tribe in that opposition and asserting my treaty rights to protect the water and the air. And so looking forward, Robert, like I always said, this is more than a pipeline. It's about our treaty rights, our inherent rights, and to protect the water and all that is sacred, because that's our way of life. Remember, we're all related. So, yeah, it's a little disheartening to hear that Walz failed to consult with the tribes, and now I'm wondering what our Minnesota appointed by the governor, our Minnesota tribal liaison. He actually admitted during the White Earth and DNR meeting this last year in regards to Line 3, admitted that he didn't consult with the tribes in the timely fashion. And I asked our elected official after the meeting Friday, I called up one of our officials and said, well, what about the liaison? And he says, that's a good question. I don't know.
Wow.
And that's really disheartening to hear because, again, back to Walz meeting with Leech Lake a week ago last Thursday, he was up here meeting with the tribe. And the elected official also told me that Walz admitted, failing to consult, and he'll do better next time. But hey, let's talk about the Executive Order 19-24, the government-to-government executive order that it's his and Peggy's executive order. Yeah. And we believed in that. And now Line 3, the tribes weren't consulted, and Walz gave the green light for the Hubbard Frontier Project in it's near Cohasset in Minnesota, here in northern Minnesota. And he didn't consult with us, and for some reason it's not right for him to think that he's there for us, creating executive orders but not consulting with us, and I kind of think that's hypocritical, and it's just not right.
Yeah, it seems to be the norm with government. Brown people be damned when it comes to your place you live and your environment and, all these asthma attacks and things like that. We had Winona on last week, and she was talking about a Tesla and them wanting to tear down all these trees to get certain things for their batteries up there. And there's another fight right there.
Right, the nickel mining is exactly what you're talking about. We have polymet. There's just so much assault on Minnesota right now and on our tribes, and we're not being consulted in any fashion. It's always like, oops, we forgot, we'll get better next time. That's not going to work no more. So moving on, I want to give a big shout out to the Native Peoples Caucus of the Minnesota DFL and the Environmental Caucus, because, I attended 2 long meetings yesterday, and they have beautiful, strong resolutions that help protect the environment. And the Environmental Caucus, they're on our side, and they understand what we go through. And I want to give a shout out to both those caucuses for working hard. I encourage our listeners, if you're here in Minnesota, to look up the Native Peoples Caucus of the Minnesota DFL on Facebook and join us. You can be Native and non-Native to be with us. You don't have to be Native to be in that caucus, Robert. And that's what's beautiful. That's part of that, treaty solidarity. I just see it in a beautiful way.
Oh,
Moving forward, I also would recommend people to become delegates. And Joey Peltier, actually, if you look on the webpage for the Native Peoples Caucus, there's a video on resolutions, and we're also going to create a video on how to be a delegate and be a voice for your local community, because that's where change starts.
Yeah, definitely. And give a shout out to Wisconsin too. You guys can start these things up too, and if they're not out there, please Google it and see if there is a Native legislative organization out there. But that's really good. Joey's stepping up there in the deep north, and you were a delegate at one time too, so it's really important that we're part of the conversation and not what's for dinner.
Right, like the famous quote by Elizabeth Warren, if you're not at the table, you are what's being served. And I became a delegate because I believe neither the Democratic or the Republican Party ever served our people in a good way. So we have to bring ourselves to the table. If you can't run for office, become a delegate, because it's not a huge time commitment. And people like myself will be here to show you how that's done. And Robert, back in 2018 at the state convention, I was honored to speak on behalf of a resolution that we wrote with the late Elizabeth Sherman. We pushed it through our county conventions, and we took it to the state convention, and we received enough signatures to call it up for special consideration. And I was honored to speak on behalf of those treaties, and they got a majority vote. So at the Minnesota the Native Peoples Caucus of the Minnesota DFL, we want to keep pushing those treaties, keep creating awareness, education, and we're also putting in a piece that our law enforcement should have constitutional training in their training, because if they swear to uphold the United States Constitution, that includes Article 6. And if they fail to recognize that, then maybe they shouldn't be police officers. So we have language in one of our resolutions that address that. And a big shout out to Mary Kunish-Bodine, too, for being a guest or visitor with us yesterday. And she's always so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. That really, really makes sense. And, it's just like, a doctor spends like a day on, when they're getting their practice going, or not their practice, but their education going. They spend maybe a day, if you're lucky, on alcohol and drugs. And that's something that, again, our legislators and our police need to know, that what is in the Constitution and what has to do with their constituents, which are our people.
Right, and if they can't uphold Article 6, then maybe they don't. They shouldn't be police officers. Maybe they should go be, a hairdresser or a manager or whatever their other skills are. They need not be a police if they don't understand Article 6, because they are lawless when they deny Article 6, and we're not the lawbreakers here. We're asserting our rights and moving forward really quick. Bimi'ji 350, we're on the verge of transitioning to the new hub for the Minnesota 350 Treaty Campaign, and we are ready to, in this next week here, actually in the next couple of days, I'm ready to send our invites out to our Native community to help create that space. And then in the near future, we're going to invite our non-Native allies. And, that stand we took at Firelight at the Treaty Peoples Gathering, we're moving into a treaty alliance, and we're building northern Minnesota as the treaty hub so we can support and assert our treaty rights in a good way. And I'm excited for all that.
Wow, that is exciting. We got a couple more minutes here. What else do you see in the future here? I just got to say this before you do that, Nancy, is that we're with Nancy Beaulieu, Bimi'ji 350, and she's up in the deep north of Minnesota for our people in Wisconsin that don't know that are listening to the show live and recorded. Things have gotten better, but also things are the same, and so that's a hard pill to swallow, just because I think we really feel like we're making progress, and then we hear reports of what the Minnesota government's doing to our people up there.
Right, and that's why civic engagement's important, Robert. We need to start attending our local, city council meetings, our board meetings, and being a little bit more progressive, and actually supporting our Native American senators and representatives that align with our values. And those, some of our relatives don't always align with our values, and they hold a space. Well, we need to start having tough conversations with them. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to mention that the Native Peoples Caucus of the Minnesota DFL, we now have a legislative committee. So we are going to follow up with
perfect
with our candidates who win their campaigns, because we're not just a vote anymore at Minnesota 350. We also have the same thing happening where November 3rd comes. Our work isn't done. Let's forget about the people. We won our election. It's time to screw them over. And then we'll make more promises right before the next election and win them over again. We're done with that, Robert. We need to build on civic engagement, and that's why we're building this community here in Bemidji, Minnesota, with treaties being our foundation.
Perfect. One last thing. We have an old native saying that the left wing and the right wing are from the same bird. So I think they count on, and all the work that you did up there, with over 9,000 new registered voters, and then they getting the vote from us, the Democratic Party specifically, and then they forget us. So this is really, really great news to hear that you guys are becoming really proactive about keeping their toes to the fire.
And I'm excited, about the work moving forward and what it looks like. And we're going to send that invite out this week, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be up and running. And I just want to say one last thing about the treaties. Regardless of what political party you belong to, what church you go to, how you self-identify, treaties are nonpartisan. We're all treaty people, and we have an obligation to live in peace and to leave this earth in a better way. And we're going to continue to show up and continue to write that story that we have started, Robert.
Yeah, perfect way to end.
Yeah,
Perfect way to end it. The treaties go both ways. They're to protect both us and the people that are both sides of the signings, whether it's the government or not. So, but hey, Nancy Pinigigi, thank you so much for being on. That was Nancy Beaulieu, Bemidji 350. We'll be right back after this short break. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey man, are you going to the vaccination party after school?
True that. What are you guys talking about? What party?
Oh hey, there's gonna be a party soon for anyone who's vaccinated. A lot of people are gonna be there. Bro, you should definitely go get vaccinated. It's like a shield against COVID.
I don't know. I'm not so sure.
Do us a favor and get vaccinated, bruh. We even go with you.
Come on, it's gonna be all good. Once you get vaccinated, we can go to the party together.
This message is brought to you by Bimi'ji Communications and Minnesota Department of Health.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm Wendy Pilot, also known as Hanaji Hihani. And as you all know, I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. And Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. Thanks, Robert, for those great interviews with State Representative Heather Keeler and Nancy Beaulieu from MN 350. This is the Sacred Animal section of the show. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States. I work on animal issues at the state and local level. I have a really funny story that I'm excited to share with you tonight. But before I get to the funny story, I have to share some serious news. And this was posted by our sponsor, Howling for Wolves. And it was posted on January 15th. And it was reposted from Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center. It's the CWWC, which stands for the Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center. It's a 501c3, a nonprofit organization and certified AZA sanctuary. Their mission is to educate about wolves and wild canids. Here's what they posted. Gardner, Montana, on January 14th, in the face of widespread killing of Yellowstone National Park's beloved wolves, 30 business owners who operate in and around Yellowstone National Park and depend on its renowned wildlife called on Department of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland to reinstate endangered species protections for gray wolf. Business owners cited direct economic impacts to their businesses and livelihoods from Montana and Idaho's egregious new laws, which allow the killing of 85% and 90% respectively of the state's wolf populations by unethical means such as baiting, snaring, night hunting, and payment of bounties. Montana also eliminated prior strict quotas in hunting districts 313 and 316 bordering Yellowstone National Park. As of mid-January, at least 20 of Yellowstone's park's resident wolves have been killed. More than 40 additional gray wolves have been killed in Region 3 in southwest Montana around the park. The new laws passed by Montana's legislator and signed by Governor Garafonte last year not only take wolf killing to a new extreme, but also will kill our business and livelihoods, which depend on a healthy and reliable visible wolf population, says Kara McGarry, owner of in our nature guiding services. With intense hunting pressure, baiting, trapping, and snaring, I have legitimate concerns that the wolves my clients come to see will not be viewable in the coming summer. Already, we've had a decrease in wolf sightings along Yellowstone's northern range. The economic value of wolves seen alive is orders of magnitude greater than those kills. Visitor polling in Yellowstone consistently places wildlife viewing in the top 3 reasons people want to visit the park, making wolves a key contributor to the region's overall tourism economy. In 2020, visitors of Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks spent over $1 billion in parks and surrounding communities. So please, everyone, Google Department of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland's contact information, and please ask her to reinstate endangered species protections for the United States gray wolf. All you need to do is call her and write her an email and just ask her to do that. And I think that's really important that we take care of that. And it's really good to know that people out there are coming to Montana and Idaho and other places, spending billions of dollars just to watch these beautiful animals. So please do that. And the more information that she gets from our public and the more outcry, hopefully she will put pen to paper and sign that endangered species and reinstate the wolves. But let's change gears here. I have a really funny story. This comes from majesticanimals.net, and it was dated back on July 23rd of 2021. But this video went viral, and this guy who lives in London, his name's Russell Jones. Russell Jones. He's from London. What happened was he hurt his ankle. He had an ankle injury, and he hurt his ankle, and he was on crutches. So he was taking his dog out for a walk, and he kept walking with his dog. But his name is Billy. And Billy is a lurcher. That's the kind of dog he was. And I never really heard of that before, so I had to look it up. And a lurcher is a crossbred dog, aka mutt, between a sighthound, which I also never heard of, and a dog of another type, but it's mostly commonly bred with a herding dog or a terrier. But anyway, he was taking his dog Billy for a walk, and Billy started to limp. So if you're watching us on Facebook Live, you could see his dog with his left paw up in the air. So Billy was really limping a lot, and his owner, Russell, was like, oh no, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? My dog is hurt. What happened to him? He must have stepped on something. He must have hurt himself. So he got the dog, him and his wife get in the car, they go to the vet. He said that Billy, the dog, walked into the vet's office, no problem and no limp. And the vet really examined him very thoroughly and took x-rays and, everything, and charged his owner, Russell, with $400 bill, which was 300 euros. But anyway, there was nothing wrong with Billy. Billy was perfectly normal dog. There's nothing wrong with him. No breaks, no splinters in his paw, nothing. And the vet said, Billy has sympathy for you. Billy has sympathy and is limping along with you as you're limping with your crutches. So I thought that this was a really cute little story, and you could Google it and watch the video. There's actually a video that the guy's wife took of her husband and the dog walking down the street, of Billy limping along, and it's really, really cute. And it's really heartwarming that the pets that we share our time with and spend our life with really become part of our family and part of our life. And he did have sympathy. He really did. Yes, Lucy. I know you like that story too. That's Lucy, who jumps up during my sacred animal section almost every day. I think she's kind of deaf. I don't know how she hears that it's the sacred animal section, but she knows something's going on. And yes, Lucy, I love you too. So I think it's a good thing to pay attention to our pets and just watch them and see how they react to certain things. I think that if we pay a little bit of extra attention, we'll find out a lot of really cute things about our animals and things that they do. And I just love this story. So Google Russell Jones from London or limping dog. I think you can just Google limping dog. Please, everybody, Google Deb Haaland and give her a call. Ask her to please put our beautiful wolves back on the Endangered Species Act. We really need that to happen. And I'm going to end with these thoughts, but listen to some music here. Here we go. I would like to end with these thoughts. If you've been listening to this show, you are the resistance. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'd like to thank Robert Pilot, Ogimaa with the News, Minnesota State Representative Heather Keeler, Nancy Beaulieu. Also, Reservation Dogs is on Hulu. I was corrected on that. So watch Reservation Dogs. We will be back tomorrow. Keep warm.